Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning into the Polo Show. I'm here today with Kevin McKelligan. We're going to talk Niners and we're going to talk Warriors today to preview the matchup on Monday night versus the Gremlin, or maybe his backup, in the Arizona Cardinals, and then also talk about the Warriors who are going to play the New York Knicks tonight. So let's get into some Niners and Warriors talk.
Wide open, touchdown, 49ers. And Draymond. Curry. Watch Stafford go deep and picked off. We're able to do week 3 in that matchup. Toss to Jones and big middle linebacker Fred Warner made the stop.
All right, once again, everyone, thanks for tuning in to the Polo Show. I'm joined today by Kevin McKelligan. Kevin, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, dude. We've got some Niners football to talk about and some Warriors basketball. It's been a little bit of a struggle so far, but we'll get into it here in a little bit, I think.
Absolutely. And also shout out to our team at Niners Empire at Stadium, right? We were just number 1 in the company in October. I didn't know that till I got the stats today, so we're growing over there as well. And there's a lot of stuff going on Twitter right now. There's the Trent Williams. We got to talk about Trent's tip a little bit. It's pretty big and wide on film if you go look at it. But also, for anybody that is a woman out there, you can literally talk about anything. It's not just sports that you're allowed to talk about. I can't believe these clowns, people going at Steph.
Bro.
I've seen other people going back and forth. So there is going to be a space, by the way, for those of you who are on Twitter that have seen the stuff going on with morons that are sexist and misogynistic. So if you want to tune into that, that'll also start right after this show. Just hit Twitter and I'm sure you'll find the space. But yeah, Tanya, that was wild. What's up, by the way? Let's dive into some Niners stuff. I just want to get that out of the way. They're 5-4 right now. So that feels really nice. And they're going into their first game against the Cardinals this year. And this does feel like a game they should win really easily. If you look at how the Cardinals have played this year, if you look at their quarterback situation right now with Kyler Murray being banged up, and also just the Niners starting to really get healthy and the defense still being so elite. And we just saw what they did to the Chargers, who were also injured, but still they had a really great second half. They had a good second half the week before that, the game before that. So we have seen games like this in 2022 so far where it feels like we should win this one, like the Bears game, or if it was the Falcons game. And no matter what kind of disadvantages they might have had, like if it was some guys getting injured or if it was a monsoon, it just feels like those games, they just find a way to make it difficult. It even felt like that at the beginning of this past Sunday's game. So what should we expect in the game in Mexico on Monday night against the Cardinals? But also, what would you like to see the team do Monday night? How do you want to see them play and handle business?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. I think obviously we're going to see a lot of energy, right? I think both teams are going to be fired up. But the 49ers really like to come out and bring the energy. We know that the crowd is going to be mostly 49ers. I think it was maybe like 75, 80%.
It's like 82%, I think.
Yeah, so it's essentially going to be a home game, not quite filled up with 49ers fans, but mostly 49ers fans. So I think the Estadio Azteca is going to be electric. I think the Niners are going to bring the energy. To be honest, like early in the game last week when they had 2 weeks to prepare, and typically they play Sunday afternoon at 1:00. It was Sunday night, so they even had more time to prepare and rest up. They came out kind of flat. So I expect that to change this week. Now they've also had an extra day to prepare for this game, a division opponent. I think that they should come out with a lot more energy. I think they should come out more disciplined, and I think they should get off to a hot start because the last few games they've been kind of stale when they come out. The offense doesn't really move. The defense kind of keeps the opposing offense in check enough for the offense to get it going. But I expect that to be different this week. I expect them to be more prepared. I expect them to be more disciplined. And I expect them to at least have a lead starting out in the first quarter. They can't afford to keep starting off slow, especially against the Cardinals, which I believe they traditionally start off pretty slow against Arizona. So you don't want that to keep happening, or else you're not going to be able to make up from the deficits.
Yeah. And it felt like even if you go to last year, the games we had against the Cardinals, they both felt winnable. Like I was at the one in
Yeah.
Arizona. It was Trey
Mhm.
Lance's first start, and with very little preparation, they were still really well within that game.
Absolutely.
Obviously, Lance didn't have that much preparation. They didn't have Robbie Gold in that game either because he was injured. So they had Joey Sly, and they were not
Yeah.
really confident in having him go
Mhm.
out there and kick. And it was a low-scoring game. The defense at the time, that was the first-place Cardinals team that was
Yeah.
lighting it up on the scoreboard. I think they were the first team. I think the Niners are the first team to not allow them to score either 20 or 30 points. And then you get into the game against Colt McCoy. There's just a lot of self-inflicted wounds. We had a couple fumbles
Mhm.
early in the game that just kind of
Mhm.
killed momentum. You had the Josh Norman penalty that just put the defense in a bad situation. It was just a sloppy, weird game. And this next Monday, I kind of think it's hard to not remember because considering the fact that Colt McCoy might play, and we'll get into that in a little bit. I think it's kind of hard to not remember um, what Colt McCoy did last year and how
Mhm.
really did carve up our defense at the time, and we were kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. But that's just always a pattern with this team, which is what really frustrates me. So I feel like every week I'm really just hoping that they come out and just stomp on their opponent and
Yeah.
never let up. But I feel like I keep getting let down most of the time. Like even the Rams game, what's up, Roscoe? I mean, Roscoe was with us there. They started out really slow.
Mhm.
Defensively, they were having trouble getting off the field. Offensively, they weren't moving that much. It's the second half, the last couple games, where they've really taken control. They don't allow their opponents to score the last two games in the second half. Their offense starts to put up points. And Roscoe saying, please give Jimmy credit. And that's the thing is Jimmy, I will give Jimmy credit. He has done what we asked. He's not ever going to be what we wish he could be, which is more than what he is. He's still going to miss those reads. He's still going to have
Yeah.
some bad throws over the middle. He's going to have those mistakes. He's going to tap dance and crab walk in the pocket. We understand that. But at the end of the day, the turnovers are not happening, even though there's some plays he still makes that very well could be turnovers, like the Jalen Ramsey drop pick few weeks ago. But the turnovers are not happening. So therefore, he's doing what we just hope he can do, which is not throw the game away. I can give him credit for that. He's doing what we asked, and we're winning games because of it, or not because of it, but we're not losing games. We should be winning because of it, I would say, the last few weeks. So
Mhm.
I'll give him credit there. But the stuff with like the drops, or if it's penalties, which we've seen in certain games this year, especially that Bears game, that's the stuff I don't want to see against Arizona.
Yeah.
Listen, this is a terrible team. I live in Arizona, y'all, and I'm around Cardinals fans all the time. I hear the sports radio shows out here, and we'll get into this later, but I'm telling you, they are really terrified of having to play the Niners. Like I was in the car the other day,
Mhm.
and the radio hosts were talking about like all these stats from the Niners that I didn't even know about. Like I didn't know we allowed like the least first downs per game. I didn't know I think either we're top 3 or leading the league in like sacks per attempt and pressures. Like we're really up there in a lot of defensive categories. We allow the least amount of yards rushing and passing.
Mhm.
They're really terrified of having to play us, to the point where they're looking at our pass rush. And I heard the radio host saying, like, if Kyler Murray's not literally 100%, a lot of them would rather have Colt McCoy playing. And we'll talk about that
Mhm.
in a second. But I don't want to see a situation like that. We're going into a game where this team basically, or feels like the consensus feeling here is that this team has no chance to beat us. All of a sudden, I don't want us to be in a stressful fourth quarter. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, Jimmy cannot throw the game away on this possession or we're screwed. We shouldn't even be in that position. I look at this team and I say they're contenders. The reason I say the Niners are contenders at this point, based on what I've seen, not based on what on paper they could be, but based on what I've seen, is the NFC is so weak. there's not really a lot of elite quarterback play in the NFC either. It's really
Mhm.
mostly in the AFC. You got the Eagles, who are a good team. You got some teams in the NFC East that look pretty good. Like the Cowboys have a good defense, but it's not a really deep conference. There's really only a couple teams you can maybe look at and say they're going to get out of the NFC. But I think that the NFC contenders are not at the same level as the AFC contenders when they're healthy. Like I don't think a lot of NFC contenders right now are on par with like the Bills when they're healthy or the Chiefs,
Yeah.
especially when they're healthy. So that's why I see them as contenders a lot. But when you have self-inflicted wounds all the time against teams that aren't even good that you should be beating, if you are a contender, you're supposed to kick the shit out of terrible teams that you play. You're not
I
supposed to be
agree.
in those games like the Denver
Yeah.
Broncos where your defense has an all-time performance on Sunday night and you lose a game where your defense allowed less points than your team scored. Like that's just crazy. So that's stuff I don't want to see. I don't want to see us put in that situation. Um, I do expect them to come out though with a lot of intensity because, like you were saying, they came out a little stale, and I think part of that maybe was the bye week, right? Like maybe you have that week
Yeah.
off, and even though you had
Possible.
the extra preparation, the other team just played a game, so they're more engaged, maybe at least at first. So knowing that this is a divisional game and they're not coming off a bye week, and they just came off a good Sunday night win, Debo had his full week back. Ebukam returned to practice. I think that that energy of playing an international game and that spotlight that's going to get everybody going. So that's kind of what I expect.
Yeah. I
But
just real quick before we move on, I think
yeah,
Melissa had a really great comment. She said, "I just need the pre-snap penalties to go away."
yes,
And she's absolutely right because, again, we're gonna talk about Jimmy G and give him his credit, but what I will say about this offense is if we're starting at 1st and 10, or I mean, I'm sorry, 1st and 15, 1st and 20, it's very difficult for us to pick up first down because we already know the skill position players take on a lot in this offense, and any extra yards that we're giving the defense to defend us, especially with our quarterback, is almost it's exponential of how much harder it's going to be to gain first downs. So I think Melissa's exactly right. We have to stay pre-snap, post-snap, very disciplined. We cannot give up any yards, especially on offense. The defense, on the other hand, could potentially give up one or two like personal fouls or one pass interference and get away with it. But the offense has to almost play perfect football in order for us to
yeah,
score 25 plus points. So I think she's right on. We got to play disciplined on offense. No false starts. No, 12 men in the huddle. No illegal motions. No illegal formations. None of that. No illegal men downfield. They got to play really solid and execute the game plan and the plays each and every play because we can't start behind 1st and 20. It's just
yeah.
not for us. For other teams, they might be able to get away with it, but for us, that's not our case. So we have to play extra discipline. So I think that was a great point you made.
That is a really good point. And obviously, they're practicing in Colorado, in the high altitude, and it's really cold up there too.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like 75 degrees in Mexico when they play. But I was just kind of mentioning the Cardinals, and basically what they're kind of saying is if Kyler Murray's 100%, they'll let him go. But if he's not, a lot of people don't even want him to play
Yeah.
against our pass rush because their season's kind of done at this point. Even if they strung off some wins, like what are they going to do in the playoffs? Like they kind of know their season's done. Just kind
Yeah.
of protect that investment. They just paid him a lot of money. But do you think this might sound like a stupid question at first, but and people can chime in the chat if they want, but do you think Colt McCoy gives the Cardinals the better chance to challenge us than a banged up Kyler Murray? Or do you still think like an 80% Kyler Murray is more dangerous? Who would you rather face?
Well, I mean, I would. This is gonna. I don't know if this is gonna sound like weird or whatever, but I would still rather play Colt McCoy. But I think Colt McCoy actually sometimes in some cases, maybe even especially in division games, it's much harder to play a game manager like Colt McCoy because you know he's not going to give you the big play, but he's not going to be making crucial mistakes. Whereas Kyler Murray, he kind of runs around with the football. It's not very secure. He likes to take chances with his arm, so there's more room for error or should I say, there's less room for error for the defense if Colt McCoy is playing because if he's not going to be making like a ton of big play mistakes or whatever, he's more check down. the defense can't be as opportunistic. They kind of have to play more on their heels. They can't really play downhill because they know they're not going to get as many opportunities. I'm not saying like Colt McCoy is a bad quarterback. I would rather play Colt McCoy, but in some cases, it might be more difficult to play because you're not going to be able to take the ball away because he's not going to be making those egregious errors. If that makes any sense, I would rather play him, but sometimes it's tougher to play him because if you're playing Kyler Murray, you could get a strip sack. If he's scrambling, you can punch the ball out. He's more aggressive with his arm. Might try to fit the ball into a tighter window. So in that case, you might be able to come up with more turnovers. I actually in what it was last year when Colt McCoy beat us, right? The guy basically made no mistakes, but he didn't make any huge plays really. He had one big throw over the top over Hufanga, but a lot was dink and dunk screen passes to where we were just missing tackles and not executing.
They could not tackle James Conner.
Right. And so I think sometimes not in every case, but in some cases, it's actually more difficult to play a guy that doesn't give you the big play, but doesn't make as much mistakes because your defense can't be as opportunistic, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, and I would rather play Colt still. Like I think it's just I wanted to ask that because I thought that was pretty wild. Like in my mind, like Kyler Murray, #1 overall pick, who you just paid, and backup Colt McCoy. Yeah. The fact that I'm even hearing that, it just kind of goes to show. And I kind of told people like over summer too when we were in Spaces. A lot of Cardinals fans are not that high on Kyler Murray. Like a lot of them are not. I noticed that when I went to the Niners game last year. And we see the friction too. I need to watch the Hard Knocks because I bet it's hilarious. But you can see the friction on the sideline almost every week. Like Kyler's getting into it with somebody, and I just kind of wonder: does Colt McCoy not have is there no friction to the point where they play a little more free? I have no idea. I just know the whole team's kind of a mess, and the fans know it's a mess right now. There's disconnect of the quarterback and the coach. People don't. Kingsbury should not have that job, for being honest. So. The reason I'd still rather play Colt, though, is because in the past, at least, even our elite defenses do struggle against mobile quarterbacks sometimes. And I would just hate to be like, let's say we are in a game like Melissa was talking about, like penalties like this, right? Like Bosa, getting flags, or if we're having pre-snap penalties even on offense that are crippling our ability to get first downs, or we're punting more. I don't want to be in a situation where our defense plays like 2 really good downs and then Kyler Murray runs around like a little gremlin and just fidgets his way into a first down, and it just extends drives and tires out our defense. So I would still, even if Kyler Murray was like not very healthy, I would still rather play Colt because I'd rather bank on our defense with that than someone who is capable of scrambling for like 50 yards.
Yeah. For sure. And Kyler Murray is much more mobile. He's much quicker. He's much faster. But let's not forget Colt McCoy. He is mobile.
Yeah.
He's not a statue. He is mobile. He can avoid the rush. He's not going to break out for 50 yards, like you said, but he's capable of getting 8 to 12 on a 3rd and 6. Those are plays that they have to keep in mind. They can't just treat him like he's, just a statue back there, because if they don't stay disciplined in their rush lanes, and they lose contain, you don't have to spy him. You'd have to
he's not that
down a guy like Kyler Murray. You don't have to spy him, but you have to stay disciplined in your rush lanes, or he will escape for some yardage. And I think he did that last year. I think there were multiple plays where he evaded the rush and got the ball out and, missed a tackle, and, there's 40, 50 yards downfield. So he's not mobile. He can move around, so they have to keep that in the back of their mind as well.
Yeah. Roscoe said Kyler reminds him of Spencer Rattler. Roscoe, since you love high school, Spencer Rattler went to high school here in Arizona. You know who else went to high school out here in Arizona? Brock Purdy. There
you go.
So just there's some high school facts for you, Roscoe. So
there you go.
Cream. No, I'm just playing. But anyways, moving forward, just talk a little bit more about this game. Who do you think stands out? But also not on top of that, maybe the answer is the same. Who do you really want to see step up and have a big game on Monday?
That's a great question. I'm going to say the same player for both, who I would like to see step up and who I think will stand out. I think this is going to be a week where we see Deebo Samuel break out. 1 week it's been Ayuk. The Rams game, it was Christian McCaffrey. I think it's time. We haven't really seen we've seen flashes from Debo. We haven't really seen a ton in the receiving game. He had that one touchdown against the Rams the first time we played on like a little in-breaking route, and he broke 4 tackles for a touchdown. But I would like to see him have to start getting consistent, getting open consistently in the passing game. I want to see a game where he's getting 6, 7, 8 targets out in space down the field. Because we are paying him a lot of money. And I know having him there as a running threat in the RPO, quick slant, quick breaking in routes, he's fantastic. But I mean, we're paying him wide receiver money, so I would like to see him be more productive in the passing game. He's a fantastic run blocker. He's great with the ball in his hands. But I would like to see him get some targets and look alive in the passing game. Because if he can get going in the passing game, then it's going to open up everything else. Because now if Deebo Samuel's running open down the field, what are you going to do then? So I'll say Deebo Samuel I think this will be his breakout game. And he needs to step up because he's been injured. He's kind of been nursing some stuff. And he hasn't really had that signature Deebo game where he's going 100 yards receiving, 50 yards rushing, and 2 touchdowns. So I'm going to take Deebo Samuel for this one.
Okay. I like this answer. Yeah, Jawan Jennings. Yeah. That reminds me a little weird. So I have kind of two. Like, I really do want to see Deebo step up for all the same reasons you said. And I think the Cardinals are last in yards allowed after the catch. So I think that's really important. They just have to make sure they give Deebo the ball in space, like you said.
Yeah.
I also want to see Mooney Ward because he's going to have DeAndre Hopkins probably for majority of the game. I think that's going to be one of the most exciting matchups. What's up, Hiley? And I'm going to be – some of y'all might hate me for this. I feel like Jimmy's going to have a good game. Like, I feel like he's actually going to have like a really good game, and people are going to be arguing about it. And there's going to be the talks about, is he top 10? And we're still going to be saying, no, he's not. And people are going to be going back.
Is he going to be the starter in 2023?
No, hell no. But I do think he's going to have a good game. I don't know what it is. Just this Cardinals team. Like, if we think sometimes we're a mess, this team is a fucking clown show. Like, they are a whole circus. I am so happy that they got hard knocks out of every team, and I get to live here around all the Cardinals fans and get to hear their pain every single day that I step outside. So I actually feel like Jimmy's gonna have a big game. I don't know why. I just have that gut feeling. I kind of have like that 2019 feel of when he had those 2 games against the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And this Cardinals team is just bad, and Jimmy does have a lot of weapons around him. I'm not saying like he's going to elevate the team like it's a Saints game that he played, but I do feel like he's just going to have a really nice game.
And he plays them well. I think
he does.
Out of any NFC team, he probably puts up the best numbers against Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona and the Rams, he just seems to have. So that's what I got. Really quickly, what bold predictions you got, and what's a score prediction?
Ooh, bold predictions. All right, I'm gonna go. I'll say 1 on offense and 1 on defense for a bold prediction. Can I take yours with the Jimmy? Because I actually think he's gonna have a good game as well. I'll say Jimmy. I'll say Jimmy has over 325 passing yards.
Ooh.
3 touchdowns and no interceptions this week.
Okay. I was close to you. I was thinking I'll give you mine after.
Okay, cool. And then for defense, I'm gonna say Charvarius Ward is gonna hold DeAndre Hopkins to 4 or less catches this game. Be my bold prediction.
Okay. I think Sackaroonies. I think Jimmy's gonna have. I don't know if he'll get that many yards. I do think we're gonna run the ball a lot, but I do think he'll get about 285 yards passing. Okay. But I also think he's gonna throw 3 touchdowns. I feel like when we get into that red zone, we're gonna end up throwing the ball, and he's just gonna be able to come through a few times. And we also have so many different pass catchers, so that's how I feel. Now, for a score, I think honestly we put up a good amount of points on this Cardinals team. I think it's going to be similar to the Rams game in Levi's South. I think we're going to win like 31 to 17. I'll give the defense like one weird possession where we're sitting there shaking our heads like how the hell did they go down the field and score like that, and that's why I say 17. So 31-17 is my score prediction. But
Nice.
we have a lot of stuff to talk. Oh, look at that. Just damn near. That's exactly the score of the Rams game. Melissa says 31-13. Tanya says Huff is going to get a pick. Probably will. If Nick Bosa gets 4 sacks on Monday Night Football, Sports Center immediately after is going to talk about how Micah Parsons is the next Lawrence Taylor. That's what they're going to be talking about immediately after the game.
He still gets like no respect. I mean, it's just crazy.
He gets no respect.
Now, I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I really don't get it. He's the best defensive player on the best defense in the NFL, and he gets absolutely zero coverage. It's really insane to me. But we have a lot of stuff to get into basketball-wise today. There's a lot of stuff. We haven't really talked that much about the Warriors. Holy shit. Okay, Roscoe, if they win 40-13.
Roscoe putting up a 40 burger.
40 burger. If that happens, Roscoe is going to be very turned on. I already know it. I'll be turned on actually. For the Warriors, we got to talk about that. They're struggling. They're ass right now. There's no beating around the bush when it comes to that. There are so many problems with this team, and it's mostly on the road. I don't know because of the games yesterday, but I know like entering yesterday, the Warriors were last in points allowed per game on the road, averaging like they're allowing about an average like 122 points on the road. They're 0-8 on the road. They can't play defense. Their offense looks kind of inconsistent with certain players. Certain guys, like people try to blame James Wiseman a lot at first for pretty much the entire issues that they were having, and people point at plus minus, even though that lacks a lot of context. And it's just weird because even though there's a lot of guys having to step in that haven't played so much in the NBA and they're still younger and we're building with them, like Kuminga did play last year. Moody was getting minutes in the playoffs. I didn't expect them to look the same. Like I expected Kuminga to look a little bit like the same. I didn't expect everyone else to look worse or the same, which looks really weird to me. They're just not in sync with every single area of the game. Steph Curry is just having an all-time season that's not even really going to get respected because this team's not really winning games. If they were winning games, he's number 1 in the MVP pecking order right now. And I don't even think it's close. So what the hell do you think is going on? And what do you think is going on with the young guys, with Clay, with Jordan Poole? Like what do you think is going on? What do you feel like needs to change?
I mean, there's a lot wrong with the team. I mean, I'll be honest. I don't know if it's something going on in the locker room. I don't know if just the loss of Mike Brown, just of not preparing enough defensively, and maybe they're we see it constantly. They're constantly late on their rotations.
So late.
There's somebody either driving wide open down the lane for a layup. They're sloppy in transition. They're not picking up their men. And they're also giving up open threes. Now, I will say, like the last game against Phoenix, they were hitting a lot of contested jumpers.
They weren't missing.
Yeah, so I don't think I think last game was not a great example of the problems that's been happening. I think like Bridges went off, Campaign went off, some guy I've never heard of scored 20 like that.
Jake Londale.
To me that doesn't really attribute to what's been going on. But yeah, man, I don't really know what it is. I think maybe there's just a lack of intensity on the defensive end. Yeah, I think Tanya's right. They're doing a lot of ball watching.
For sure.
I think it's interesting because I looked up. You mentioned Jonathan Kuminga. Last year in 17, he didn't even average 17 minutes. He averaged 16.9 minutes last year. He wasn't terrible. He was 51% from the field, 34% from 3. He was a 70% free thrower and averaged almost 10 points a game. Like that was really solid production from a rookie, from a role player last year. And this year, those numbers are significantly down. His throw percentage is up, but his 3-point shooting is down. Field goals is down. He's only averaging about 5 points a game. So I don't know what's going on, to be honest, man. We talked about a little bit pre-show of a championship hangover from the younger guys. You'll touch on that as well. So maybe they've kind of tasted success and they're like, you know what, oh, we don't have to work as hard this time around because we already have our ring, and if we don't win another one, at least we got one. Whereas like the veterans, they know that it takes consistent and day in and day out hard work and focus on your craft to get better as a player. And so I don't know if there's a disconnect there. For some reason last year at work, they had a couple of really solid, consistent pieces, like pieces that you could trust, like an Otto Porter, Gary Payton.
Yeah,
We don't really have that this year. I think they're probably going to try to make a move eventually,
they
but
will.
to be honest, man, I did not see them coming out like this. I know Tanya mentioned maybe Clay should come off the bench. I floated around the idea of starting 3 guards, having Steph, Clay, and Poole out there. But I know we've talked about kind of in our DMs that Poole needs to be on ball, and so where does that put Steph? Um, that's their best offensive lineup. I think the more wings you put out there, the smaller ball that they play, the better outcomes they have. I don't know. I don't know what Steve Kerr is thinking. I don't know essentially what they can do to fix this. I can only really come up with ideas. I mean, I would personally, I would try a lineup with 3 guards starting, and then have Loon come off the bench. But then you're not having the their best offensive scorer off the bench in Jordan Poole, as he's already going to be out there. So I don't know, man. Maybe you have a better opinion, but I would maybe try to start 3 guards, or maybe have Jordan Poole come in a little bit earlier, and maybe I don't know. I really don't know how to fix this team right now, man.
Yeah, I mean, like, you could do something like that where if you started that small lineup and Draymond was at center, like, it
Right,
could be simple as when you bring in Kevon Looney, he comes in for Clay because Clay's
right.
still physically working his way back. Whatever you want to do, I don't know. But the issue with that for me is I
But
think
then
that
they're also not rebounding. So they're like
that's what I was gonna bring up.
they're
That's what I
like
was gonna bring up.
26th in rebounding.
20,
So if
yeah,
they
the
go
25th, I
small,
think.
it's like
Exactly. So if you go small, I don't know how that's going to work. Andrew Wiggins needs to hit the boards more. I think that's something that really needs to happen. But
mhm,
um, when you go small ball like that, if Clay was 2019 Clay, I think that'd be really worth giving a shot. But he is
yeah,
not what he was defensively. Jordan Poole's never been anything defensively. Steph has improved his defense a lot, but he's still the smallest guy on the court for the Warriors.
yeah,
So I think defensively, you're already having so many issues. I think that would just get you off to a worse start defensively. There's been many times actually the starting lineup, which is metrically, you could argue, literally the best in the NBA, which is
yeah, they
weird
are.
because they're still losing games. And sometimes they get off to really good starts. And I'm like, okay, we have a nice like 8, 9, 10 point lead. And it's crazy to me how the second one substitution is made, that lead just erases and it
Mhm,
never comes back. The Spurs game was really positive to see. So I know they're capable of doing it. It's just what happened in that game was Jordan Poole, regardless of Clay not playing, regardless of Jordan Poole starting, he was aggressive. And here's the thing. So I do want to get into that a little bit when Todd, you brought up. It's obviously a topic we were going to bring up because a lot of people are discussing this because Clay's shooting really bad. He hasn't even shot 50% in a single game yet. I think he's shooting like 31% from 3 or something. But Jordan Poole's also struggling too. And
mhm,
my issue. They're struggling in like opposite ways. Clay is struggling to make his shots. Jordan seems like he's struggling to even get his shots off. I
mhm,
feel like I'm more confident that at some point the shots are going to fall for one of the greatest shooters to ever play the game. Even if it's not at the same rate, I know it's not going to be this bad forever.
yeah,
And I was actually texting Hiley when I was at the game. I was watching warmups. I trust my eyeballs more than most things. And I've watched pretty much Klay Thompson's entire career up close. I've seen his warm-ups, I've seen his layup lines, his games. I've
yeah,
seen it for years. I've been probably like 300 Warrior games since like 2012 or something like that. So when I'm sitting there at the Suns game on Wednesday night and I'm watching Klay even in like the pregame like layup lines and shooting around, what I saw was like younger Klay Thompson. Sometimes what he would do is he would really press the issue and you could like feel it when you watch him, where Bob Fitzgerald during games would point it out a lot back in the day,
mhm,
where he'd be aiming his shots and you could tell like he's not just letting it fly with zero hesitation. You could tell he's really thinking about it. He's really trying to line it up and then he's just getting into his own head. And a
yeah,
lot of times you see him miss shots this year and he throws his hands up to his head like, damn, how'd I miss that? And he's shaking his head. That to me shows me that mentally what I'm noticing is he's not the way he was before. And I think he's really pressing this whole, I got to get back to where I was. And he feels the pressure in every single shot that he takes. And he hears all the noise, like with Charles Barkley and what fans are saying, and people wondering, is he ever going to be able to come back after playing alone in the gym for a few years? I think that's really getting to him. And listen, this is the thing, too. Years ago, like, I don't remember if this was 2014 or not, and I don't remember the exact number, so I might be wrong here. But I remember Clay started the season off terribly. Like, there were articles coming out like, is this the end of Clay Thompson? Like, I think he started a season shooting like, and this is not going to be 100% accurate, but something around like 2 for like 25 or something from 3. It was something crazy like that. And it was like, I think he was like below 20%. And that stuff happens, and he still ends up finishing the season at 40% shooting from 3. The thing with Clay also is he's coming back this year, right, on minutes restriction. That's how he started the year. Remember last year when he came back fresh off the injury, minutes restriction, how we had the same issue. He started taking a lot of shots. He felt the pressure to get the shots off, and I think Steve Kerr even admitted that it was kind of messing with him because he feels more pressure to just get his usage in. And I think maybe that messed him up to start the year, being on the minutes restriction. Now his minutes are getting back to regular, but I think that might have messed up his rhythm a little bit. And obviously now he's sitting on the back end of back-to-backs. They're using more load management with him. And he does like stretch stuff out during warmups too. So I know physically he's still working back. But I think with Clay, it's more mental. And I honestly feel like it's going to take one game where Clay drops like 35 and it's at Chase Center and the building is buzzing, and I think he'll be fine because he averaged 20 last year. He shot a better percentage from 3 than Steph Curry, I'm pretty sure, last year.
He played great last year.
Yeah, so I know it's still there. I've literally seen it. It's just frustrating that it's not coming out right now, and the team is just simply not good enough to be winning games while he's trying to figure it out and get back. Like last year, they were good enough to win games while he was trying to get back. That's just not where they are right now. You're talking about it. It's like Otto Porter, Gary Payton, those guys are not here. Even Damian Lee right now sounds nice to me to come off the bench at this point.
Yeah.
And he was a guy that we didn't even want to see on the floor for large portions of the season. And going to the second part of this finally with Jordan Poole, when people start talking about Jordan Poole, like you pull up the numbers, it's not a huge sample size from this season, but when he starts, he's way better than when he comes off the bench, right? A lot of that is also carried by that one amazing game he had against San Antonio. Right. But to me, if someone needs to start to be impactful, that's a problem also. So let's say you took Clay out of the starting lineup and you start Jordan Poole. It'll work. They won a lot of games like that. I know the starting lineup would work. I'm not even saying that, Jordan Poole will play worse. I think he will play better. That's probably right. And the starting lineup will be one of the best still in the NBA. But then on the bench, I think you just have another problem. And Steve Kerr talked about this the other day too, because if Clay's an off-ball player, he's going to benefit more playing with Steph Curry and Draymond Green. That's just the way the offense works. He's going to benefit from that more. Also, people are still going to respect the threat of Klay Thompson, regardless how bad his slumps are. He's always had slumps. He's had terrible slumps back when he was younger, and it's frustrated us before. People are still going to respect that. And when Steph Curry's on the floor, I think that'll be more dangerous. But if he's coming off the bench with Dante DiVincenzo and JaMychal Green and Kuminga or Moses Moody, I don't really see what the bench is going to do offensively because Clay's not someone who's going to take the ball and be an on-ball player and efficiently be able to score. And he's on the field, he's on the court offensively to be a scorer more than anything. Jordan Poole, the reason it's frustrating why he's also a problem is because he has the ability to put his head down and be selfish a little bit if he wants to and get buckets. It's not just perimeter shots. It's not just jump shots. He's a very good free throw shooter. And he has some good moves. If he gets himself to the basket and gets himself to the free throw line, that's finding a way to score points. Great teams always find a way to score points. And Jordan Poole, you start a game and you're shooting a lot, and then you're coming off the bench where you should have the green light, and you're taking as many shots as like Anthony Lamb in certain games or Kevon Looney. That can't happen as a perimeter player who just got paid on a new extension. It's going to pay you close to $140 million, assuming you hit all your incentives. That's a problem for me also. Yeah. And the reason I brought up championship hangover before the show is because I see Steph locked in. I think Draymond's locked. I think Draymond's been playing really good, and Highly, you brought up a good point too, because it's kind of Draymond's job to be the captain on defense. And Draymond said that after the first few games, I think, when they're struggling, where he said it starts with him because he's leader of the defense, so he's got to get
Yeah,
his guys right.
absolutely.
Now, I think that the young guys, when I look at them, who got better? Do you notice that if anyone got better? Like Jordan Poole got better since his rookie year. Every year, like going to his second year, he was better. Going to his
But
third year last year,
he's
he
not
looked
as
really
good as
good.
he was last year.
But this year, he's not. He doesn't
Yeah.
even look as good as he was last year. And if anything, he looks
Wiseman,
the
his
same.
rookie year when we won like 15 games or whatever, he looked better then than he does now.
Yeah,
Like,
Wiseman in his rookie year in 2021, he actually looked better. Now he played a lot more in that year than he has this year, and obviously he's had a year off, but he looked better. Moses Moody, I thought was going to have a much better climb because he was more experienced in college. So I thought that inside versus him and Kuminga, I thought Moody was going to have a nicer leap. Kuminga, I kind of expected to be like this, but I can't believe he's not playing. At least now they're kind of making the change. He was just sick on Wednesday, but they weren't really playing him. They're playing JaMychal Green this whole time, who I think, and Tanya just put it here, JaMychal Green is terrible. I don't know anything that he does that's positive
not
on the
very
floor.
good. Yeah.
He can hit a three, but he's not Otto Porter where you're thinking, okay, this dude's a really reliable shooter. He can finish at the rim, but his job is not really scoring. I feel like JaMychal's more like a hustle player. But the problem is he looks lost a lot of the times. So if you're lost, your hustle means nothing to me. I would much rather have Wiseman or Kuminga out there getting the minutes, even if we're still losing and sucking, they're developing. I would rather have them on the floor than have this veteran minimum guy go out there who's not going to be a part of the future, who is providing you little to nothing. And I'm serious, they gotta, like, you're not going to get Gary Payton back, right? But they got to call Toronto and see how badly they want to hold on to Otto Porter. I would do it. I would try to get
I
Otto
would do
Porter
that
back
as well.
because his jump shooting ability from the 3-point line, from mid-range, he can shoot off the dribble. He was also a really underrated defensive rebounder for this team too. There are a lot of
Like
lineups they
6'10".
ran. Yeah,
He's
they ran a
6'10",
lot of
and
lineups where he was the center and he
he's
was
one of the
rebounding.
most underrated mid-range shooters in the NBA.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy, every time he shoots it from like 15 feet, it's going in. Like,
yeah.
you know what
I think last year, they all meshed well together, their strengths and their weaknesses. Whereas this year, they just have a bunch of young guys that are trying to figure out how to get better just at basketball. And
we
can see now it's not just Wise.
Can we talk about Kuminga? Because honestly, dude, like this guy is insane athletically.
Yes.
I really thought this, like, he played fine last year. Like, he played well.
He did what we asked him to
do. He started some games in the playoffs for us. He didn't really see any minutes in the finals, for good reason. But I'm kind of disappointed with him, man. And this is coming from, I don't know what's going on inside the locker room. I don't know what goes on in practices. I'm just a fan, right? I'm just commenting on what I see. This guy reminds me of, like, I don't know who he reminds me of, but he's just got an incredible amount of talent.
He does.
He really does. I think, and where's it going? I know he's young, right? This is his second year. But I mean, dude, this guy, if he can develop his game and become a relatively decent shooter, and play solid point of attack defense, this guy could potentially be an all-star. But it's like, this guy hasn't gotten any better from what I've seen. And he's got the most talent I think he had the most talent of maybe any of the rookies that were taken. Like, I'm just saying, pure talent, basketball, like athleticism, all of it. And what's to show for it so far? Like, they've got to be disappointed in him.
He's got one move, and it's a spin move, and if it doesn't work,
because and we were talking about it last year, like it worked because we had guys like Gary Payton, Otto Porter, some of these guys, right, to fill in with some of the young guys and also the core. But in order for the Warriors to be successful this year, they had to have guys like Kuminga and Wiseman,
Yeah.
or like two of the three, Kuminga, Moody, and Wiseman, to take a step up in their game.
Mm-hmm.
Like not all of them, but two out of the three, and none of them have showed improvement. Moody, he looks the same to me,
He
but
looks about
I
the
don't think
same.
he's gotten any better. So to me, it's like in the two that have the most amount of ability and talent are Wiseman and Kuminga. So
Mm-hmm.
why now? This is Wiseman's what, third year in the league. This is Kuminga's
Yes.
second
Yeah.
year in the league. Why haven't they improved?
Yeah. With Wiseman, I give him more grace because when you're not like he's kind of like Trey Lance in a way where he played 3 games in college, and then coming into
Right,
his rookie year he was hurt, and then he got hurt during the rookie year, and
right.
then his meniscus injury just screwed him over. Like the rehab just kind of went. It was really unpredictable. So he
Mhm.
has barely played basketball, and I think that's where his frustration is, and you can see it on the floor, and that's why he's going down to G League, which is a good thing for him
Yeah.
to just be able to get as many shots as he wants, get all the touches he wants, because he'll be more in rhythm when he gets called back up. But with Kuminga, I mean, dude was playing in the G League Ignite. He was playing last year on the team. There were a lot of games too because Draymond was hurt for a while, so he was getting some good run and he was really productive. And that's why I found it interesting that he wasn't really seeing the floor to start the year over guys like JaMychal Green. It was kind of dramatic how he was not even really getting in the
It's
game at
really
all.
surprising, man. It's
And
really
that's
surprising.
got to be because Steve Kerr saw in summer, whether like looking at his summer league tape or
Yeah.
looking at practice and training camp, like this guy doesn't give us much based on the team we have right now, whereas last year it worked. The ball movement doesn't feel like it's there all the time either. I think that's another thing I've noticed, and that's really frustrating. But I wanted to get to Melissa's point about, she brought up like kind of championship hangover, but also Draymond Green and the incident, obviously. I don't like listen, it could play a part. I don't know. I'm not in that locker room at the end of the day. And they ever since the news came out, they've wanted to keep everything private. They don't really want to tell us shit about that situation. So obviously it was a lot to work from if they haven't worked it out already. But I at the same time don't want to use the Draymond incident from a couple months ago as an excuse for the guys that are just not playing well. Like I refuse to believe that that incident is causing JaMychal Green to play like ass. I refuse to believe that that incident is causing Klay Thompson to be missing every single one of his shots damn near. I refuse that incident to be the reason that literally everyone's just a ball watcher on defense. Like I'm watching it, I'm at the Suns game, and what happens is they allow a little bit of dribble penetration and the entire defense collapses. And you've
Mhm.
got like 2 guys wide open on the corner for a 3. And that was kind of an issue last year too, but they had way better players last year. Gary
Yeah.
Payton was playing defense, Otto Porter was playing defense. Like that's where the difference is. And I don't think it's talent. And we were talking about that earlier pre-show. Like, is it talent or is it something else? I think it's a chemistry thing.
Mhm.
I think that kind of thing can be worked out. And they're playing the Knicks tonight. And I just told you right before because my mom came up to me right before the show, like, who do we play tonight? And she was like, or I said it was the Knicks. She said, are they any good? And I was like, it doesn't matter. We're not
Yeah.
any good right now. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I think it's truly just guys are not on the same page. But what are your thoughts on that based on what you're seeing? I don't think it's talent. Now, I do, before you go, I have heard that they're looking at Gary Trent Jr. as a potential player that
Mhm.
they trade for. I feel like that still doesn't do it. I think he's going to make a good amount of money this year too. I don't even think a trade package for Kevin Durant would save this team at this point because you'd have to get rid of your depth. Like, who are you going to give away to get Gary Trent Jr. and where does he fit in the rotation? I don't know. What do you think? What do you feel like this team is like chemistry and talent wise where they're at? Do they need to make a big trade? Do you think that? 'Cause I think they are going to make a trade. Do you think that it's just a matter of getting a couple role players?
I mean, it's kind of a loaded question, but I don't think they're scrapped for talent, man. I still think they're one of the most talented rosters in the NBA, from top to bottom. The whole, punch thing, again, like Chris said, we don't know. But what I will say, and Highly said it, Draymond is the captain of the defense,
He is.
and maybe I mentioned this, pre show, but it seems like to me that he he's not like being the vocal leader or like getting on guys as much because of what he did. and he doesn't want to be perceived as, we already, everybody knows who Draymond is already. So to me, maybe he now that the punch happened, to where maybe if that never happened, we'd be seeing the same Draymond Green, like getting on guys or like teaching, like we've heard clips of him teaching Wiseman, in a certain, when this happens, you do this. I'm not blaming Draymond. I'm not blaming Draymond for this, but I'm thinking maybe because of what happened, maybe in the back of his mind, he's like, I can't push these young guys as much as I maybe want to because of the punch, because I don't know. But I know there's just a lack of intensity on defense, and he's the defensive leader. And so for me, making a trade, dude, I don't know what's gonna. Like I said, I don't know what's gonna fix this team. I love Kevin Durant. I would have Kevin Durant back. It's Kevin freaking Durant. But to lose all that depth, yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, Gary Trent Jr., he would be a nice piece. But no, man.
I don't think it moves the needle.
I don't think he moves the needle, and I think you gotta have an accelerated like the development with these guys now. I think some of these guys are really high picks. Like Kuminga's a top 7 pick. I think he was the 7th pick. Wiseman was the number 2 overall pick. You have these guys that should be contributing to a winning basketball team, especially if they're not in their rookie season. But I don't know, man. Like if they want to try and maximize Steph and bring KD back and potentially, I think they could do it without letting go of Wiggins. I really think they could. But then after that, then who's coming off your bench? You're having some guys coming up from the G League. So
what also doesn't help, if they were going to do that, the value of our bench players compared to where it was after the finals is not the same anymore. That's the other thing,
very
too.
true. It's very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
But looking at the team now, and I kind of went over this with Nate the last time we did a show, and I texted you about it too because I was researching the Celtics, because this kind of reminded me a little bit of the Celtics starting out last year.
Yeah.
We started out 16-19. They were averaging like 120 points per game allowed in the beginning portion of the season. They didn't even consistently become an above 500 team until the end of January. Literally the very end of January. They were 25-25 through 50 games. So it's not like the season is at a point where it's a done deal, like they're not making the playoffs. They have a lot of freaking time to figure it out, and they have a championship core. But how do you feel about their chances as of now, based on how you believe the team will be able to progress and develop, and the confidence you have in the coaching staff and the front office and the players? How do you feel about their chances? Or what do you think this team is at this point?
I mean, I trust them as a whole, as an organization. I think 4 titles in how many years? 8 years. I mean, to me, I'm still not panicking. Just me personally. I know there's people on Twitter that are freaking out every day because we didn't sign Gary Payton back, even though it would cost us $63 million against the luxury tax, and we're already paying close to $500 million on the luxury tax.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's still. I mean, we're not even to December yet, man. I mean, there's still a shit ton of time left. We're only 3 games under 500. I do think at some point we do have to figure this out. I think it's still too early to kind of say, oh man, like we're shit, we're not going to make the play-in, or we're first round exit. I think there's still a ton of time left. There's a ton of moves that could be made. I mean, I don't remember, was Gary Payton making as huge of an impact in the season early as he was like in the postseason, like midseason? Like I don't really remember that as much. So like there could be a guy that they pick up or they bring up, or some gem that they find that contributes and that helps them get over the hump. But to me, man, it's just too early to throw in the towel and just say, yeah, I'm giving up on this team. I know a lot of people freak out about the defense. Some people are saying it's unacceptable. To me, they've gained my total trust. And I know this is just maybe because I'm still celebrating last year's title, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. They're eventually going to go on a run where in like 20 games they're going to go 16-4, 17-3. It's coming. We just don't know when. And they may not be a top 2 or 3 seed, But if they hit the 4th seed, 5th seed, I still think they have a really
Yeah.
good shot. So I'm not too concerned yet, man.
Yeah, so that's exactly where I'm at too. I think that the Warriors, and this is the thing, like if this is like almost any other team in the NBA, it's legit. Like you got to worry about it.
Mhm.
And the Warriors still have to worry about it too. But like at that, I'm saying like a team like the Lakers right now, like you're done. Like at that point, like what you see there, and that's not even shade. It's just the reason the Warriors get the benefit of the doubt is because they've been the most well-oiled machine in all team sports probably the
Mhm.
last decade. They've won
Yeah.
championships with 3 different core groups. They just won the championship last year. This front office continues to find guys that come off the bench that look productive and go get paid by other teams and never do anything else afterwards, like Quinn
Mhm.
Cook or Alfonso McKinney, or they revive guys' careers like JaVale McGee. This organization deserves the benefit of the doubt because they've earned that. So
Mhm.
I'm not panicking on them right now. I'm not at the point where I'm saying, you got to hit the big red button, go make a huge move. I'm not thinking you got to make some change in the starting lineup at this point yet. Maybe you could be open to seeing if starting Wiseman helps whenever he comes back, but that would be really tough because Wiseman just looks like he doesn't really know where to be at this point. The thing for me, I don't really care where they are in the playoff seeding, like you were saying. If they just get right when the playoffs come around and they're in it, that's all that matters. Because at the end of
Mhm.
the day, if you're the 5 seed, 6 seed, you're gonna have to get through whoever that is at the 1 or 2 seed, anyways. It's really
Right.
not gonna matter. Like the Warriors kind of learned their lesson that I think the Suns are gonna have to learn the hard way about trying to win your regular season championships. It just kind of wears you down when you get to those playoff series. So they just got to focus on finding what combinations of lineups work. And I know that's what Steve Kerr's doing. I know he's experimenting with that right now. And honestly, they might throw more games because he wants to experience it. But it's really weird to say that we're in an era right now where Steph Curry, LeBron James, and KD are all below 500 on their teams right now. It's kind of
Yeah,
weird.
that's pretty crazy. Well, and the thing is, they 2014, 2015, 2016, I mean, they were winning 60 plus basketball. I mean,
Yeah.
they were just I mean, every night seemed like a win. And when they lost, it was like, "Oh man, how did they lose?" You know what I mean? And so and Clay said something I think in 2016 that really stuck with me. He said, "We've become addicted to winning."
Hmm.
And I remember him saying that in a post-game interviews that everybody in this locker room, we're addicted to winning now. All we want to do is win. And the young guys may not be addicted to winning yet. Where the
It's
core
true.
is like, all we've done is win our entire life. We have 4 trips to finals. We would have won a 5th one minus a KD injury. All we've done is won in our basketball career.
Hmm.
And these guys have one taste of success, but that's not enough.
Yeah.
Maybe they need to go on a run where they win 15, 16, 17 games in a row to be like, this is addicted. This is what being addicted to winning is. And maybe that's what they need. Maybe they just need to go on some insane run. I think it's going to come eventually, but I don't know, man. They don't
And
seem like
people,
they don't
uh,
seem like they're addicted to winning right now. So,
and when people talk about the energy, especially the energy on the bench, my thing with that is it's just because they're not winning games. When they're winning games, that bench is going to be very animated. They're going to be very energetic, but you got to get ready to play your best basketball. I think here's the thing, too. The Warriors, because they won so much, would always get every team's best game every
mhm,
single night, even
mhm.
last year, too. But now that they just won the championship, I think the young guys need to adjust to that, too. I
Yeah,
think sometimes they don't go out there and give their A+ effort. And because of that, it smacks them in the face. Or maybe they lose
very
playing
true.
time because of it. And they just start
Mhm.
to get frustrated and they get in their own heads. You have a target on your back when you're an NBA champion, especially if you're the defending champion. So I think there is a lot of little things, a lot of mental things that go into it. Draymond was on an interview, I think this past offseason, also talking about like his mental health and opening up about it. And he's basically saying like sometimes, I think he said like sometimes he's just miserable because winning and being successful, it's just such a mental grind and it takes such a toll on you. We're like, you don't really have a time to relax. And I think that these young guys need to learn that process and just become more obsessed with that process. They all work hard. I'm not saying they don't work hard and all that, but obviously Draymond and Steph and Clay, they have a different level of understanding of how to approach every single day, even when the certain days suck and you don't want to have to go to practice. You don't have to go to the shoot around, or when you're battling an injury. Like, they just kind of understand the process more of what it is to not only pursue a championship, but also defend it. I think that's another thing that's new. And also because the Warriors, people hate the Warriors too. So it's not even just that they're defending champion. It's the Warriors that are defending champions. You're getting everybody's best game. When they play the Suns are playing that shit like it's a playoff game. Cameron Payne is stepping in for Chris Paul, and he's dropping a 20 bomb on you. Totally. And Mikal Bridges, Jake Londale, who was working Costco shifts, literally working Costco shifts like months ago, is dropping a 20 piece on you. Like, they circle you on their calendar. And I think the Warriors just kind of need to match that intensity. And a lot of that is Draymond. A lot of that is Steve Kerr. And he himself came out the other night and said that he failed and needs to get these guys together. So we just got to see how they respond. There's a lot of time left in the season. They are at home tonight. So statistically speaking, they have a much better chance to win, because when they're on the road, it's a 0% chance at this point. So this might be worth watching. No, I'm just playing. I do think that they'll get a win tonight. I think that they play much better at Chase. It gives them a better sense of energy, and I think it gets them more engaged. I think someone's going to step up tonight. I don't know if it's going to be Clay or Poole, but I think that coming back home after a really competitive game in Phoenix, they competed with Phoenix. It's not like they got blown out of the water. They were competing with them. Phoenix just couldn't stop making shots. I mean, it didn't matter what they were taking. They were making everything. You had guys that people never heard about around the league. Casual fan bases probably don't even know like who Jake Londale is, or know that Mikal Bridges and Cam Payne can light up that many points the way that they did. So I don't read too much into that. The Suns are a really good team as well. It's not like they were playing some scrub team. It's the games like the Magic game that really pissed me off. Shit like that.
That was a bad one.
So let's see if they get a win tonight. The game's about to start, so we'll go ahead and wrap up the show. But Kevin, thanks for joining on, and everybody tuning in the show tonight, thank you, and thanks for tuning into the chat and supporting the show. Appreciate you every time. It doesn't go unnoticed. But Kevin, go ahead and give yourself a shout out of where people can find you and some stuff you've got going on. And we're killing it at Niners Empire right now.
Yeah. So as Chris said, you can find me on Twitter at Twitter for how much longer, we don't know.
How much longer?
At SF9er49. And then I'm also writing a little bit at Stadium Rant for the Niners Empire section. So those are the two places that you can catch me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks, Kevin. And we're going to go watch this game. Man. If you're not going to watch the game, there's, I'm pretty sure, a Twitter space that has started now, or if it hasn't, it's going to start pretty soon. If you'd like to see some clowns get cooked on Twitter, alpha males, supposedly, I hate that shit. But anyways, thanks, Kevin, for joining on. Thank you, everyone, tuning in the show. I'll go ahead and wrap this up. Warriors play in a few minutes. Let's get this dub.
Gonna throw it wide open, touchdown 49ers. And to Draymond. Hurry. Watch Stafford go deep, and Rodgers were able to do week 3 in that matchup. Toss to Jones, and big middle linebacker Fred Warner made the stop.